You know, I've actually wanted to make this video for a long while now, but I never really got around to it with my other projects taking up a lot of my time, but here we are. So a few months ago, one of my Gen Ed classes finals was coming up, and since it was one of my Gen Eds, the class wasn't all that difficult, so I was planning on taking the final pretty easy since my grades in the class were high enough. Now, the class was actually about digital media, which means stuff like Adobe Premiere, editing, Photoshop, and some more stuff like that. It was overall an enjoyable class, but the final assignment was to create a tutorial video on anything. It could be a tutorial on how to put on your shoes, and you could get an 100 depending on if you followed the rubric well enough. Now, I'm not going to go too much in detail on the rubric and the requirements because there's always a chance that some of you watching this video right now might be in that very class in my college, and getting doxxed this early into my YouTube career isn't really on the top of my priority list. Regardless of all that though, since the tutorial video could be on anything, I immediately thought about using my editing experience to get a good grade on a video game tutorial. Now, since I had never made a tutorial like this before, I had no idea what game to pick and how exactly I was going to explain everything. After a little bit of deliberation though, I eventually decided on Hollow Knight, because not only is it pretty simple to explain, but it was fairly easy to record footage of. I was planning on making a boss fight tutorial, and at first I was thinking of doing Nightmare King Grim or Pure Vessel, but then I realized how much I would have to explain and the fact that the people who would be watching the video in my class would never play the game if they get jump scared by the most difficult bosses in the game right away with an absurd info dump to go alongside it. So I ultimately decided on making a tutorial video on the False Knight. He's the first boss of the game, so I wouldn't have to explain many upgrades and mechanics, and it was right then when I was wondering about that I realized I was trying way too hard for a school project, and decided to cut corners a little bit. For the recording, I turned off the UI elements on the top left so that I don't have to explain what masks are, how to heal, and what the currency looks like. Luckily for me, since all I was doing was making a tutorial on how to get to and beat the False Knight, I don't have to pick up any charms along the way, nor would I have any spells, so the only things that I would need to explain would be the basic movement, attacking, and how to actually beat the False Knight with a full breakdown on how to dodge all of his attacks. Also, since I was making a tutorial on a video game, I had to provide some background information on the creators of said game as part of the assignment, and show the controls on a real device like my controller. But since I don't want to reveal my knuckles to all of you, I'm gonna block that part out with a black box, so just don't ask when you see it. Maybe I'll do a knuckle reveal at like a high subscriber count or something similar. It might be pretty funny to do that. But with all that background knowledge out of the way, here's the final video I made and presented to my class with the added black box to hide my hands in the final cut. Hollow Knight is a video game. A video game made by a small team of 3 people living in Adelaide, Australia, who go by the name Team Cherry. Hollow Knight started development in 2013, and after 4 long years of development, it released to overwhelming success. So much success that they took their $57,000 initial budget and somehow came out the other end with over $100 million by the end of 2025. Their absolutely stellar reputation in both how they treat their community and how they make their game led to their sequel, Hollow Knight Silksong, becoming the most anticipated and wishlisted game in the entire world. More than double of big titles like GTA 6 and Subnautica 2. That's enough background knowledge on the game though, because in this video, I'm going to be giving a tutorial on how you can beat the first boss of Hollow Knight, the False Knight. Let's go over the basics of the game first, because I could talk for hours about the spells, charms, loadouts, bosses, environments, abilities, moveset, and so much more. But you don't need to know any of that when you first get into the game. You start the game by falling down a hole. Here, you'll learn everything you need to defeat the first boss. First, the movement. I'm going to be using an Xbox controller for demonstration, but you can play this game on any console and with any controls you want, so change them around to whatever you want. You can move in this game by moving your analog stick in any direction. It doesn't matter how far you move the stick, you will always move the same speed no matter how far you push it. By pressing A, you can jump. It's a crazy, never before seen concept, I know. However, this is not an ordinary jump. By holding the A button for longer, your character will jump higher. There is a limit to how high you can jump, but that's about it. Not only that, but you have full control over your movement while you're in the air. If you jump while moving in one direction, you can instantly turn around with no issues. You, as a player, have full control over your movement at all times, and there is no momentum to slow you down whatsoever. This can allow you to dodge any attack on a whim, or just make it a little bit easier to move around. Attacking in this game is pretty simple. All you do is press X, and the area where you're looking at will be attacked. There is a maximum speed in which you can attack, but by simply pressing X over and over, you can just keep on swinging, and anything in that white radius will take damage. You can also attack in the air, and in any direction, including downwards if you happen to be above your enemy. Movement, jumping, and attacking. These are the tools you're given at the start of the game, and they're all you need to beat the first boss. Now that you know the basics though, it's time to start moving. As you make your way through the starting area, you'll make your way to a town, and at the far right you can find a well to jump down into, officially starting the game. Now you see, Hollow Knight is a Metroidvania game, which basically just means that there is no real direction the game tells you to go. You're free to explore the entire world however you wish with no restrictions. The only exception to this is that the first real area of the game, the Forgotten Crossroads, you can explore this area as much as you want. It's pretty big for the first zone of the game, but it doesn't matter how you explore, because you'll eventually make your way to the first boss blocking your progress. This is the False Knight fight, a 3-phase boss meant to introduce you to the basic mechanics of the game. Let's talk about his attacks. Firstly, don't touch him. Touching any enemy in this game will cause you to take damage, so don't do it. Make sure to always maintain a decent distance when attacking enemies so that you don't accidentally bump into them. The False Knight has a total of 4 moves, and each one changes depending on the phase of the fight you're in. Let's start with phase 1. The False Knight has 3 moves in phase 1, a jump, a slam with a shockwave, and a jumping attack. Let's talk about his 2 jumps first. The False Knight will change the way he looks very slightly when preparing for a jump, and you have no idea whether he's going to jump away from you or at you. When the False Knight jumps in your direction, he's either trying to slam his mace down onto you or trick you into thinking that he will. While the False Knight is in the air, if you see him leaning his weapon back over his shoulder, then that means that he will slam his mace down upon hitting the floor. So make sure to avoid the attack by walking backwards, and even jumping away if you want to feel safer. While the False Knight is in the air, if you don't see him holding his mace behind his head, then he won't attack the ground upon landing. This jump is just him repositioning, usually to use his other attacks. While the False Knight is on the ground, he can lean his mace backwards and hit the floor. While it may be obvious to just stay away from the False Knight when he smacks the floor with his mace, you also have to be careful about the shockwave he sends out after attacking, as it will travel across the entire arena to hit you. The best and safest way to damage the False Knight is to just wait for him to jump towards you and simply run under him while he's in the air, attacking him until he starts to attack again. The False Knight will only ever move by jumping in the air, so you don't have to worry about him walking into you. You always have enough time to reposition when he starts an attack, even when you're standing next to him. So, while it might take some practice, just be brave and fight him in the face, or play it safe and only attack him after he jumps. There is no time limit to this boss fight. After hitting the False Knight 13 times, you'll knock him onto the ground, leaving his head open to real damage. Make sure to hit him fast during this part of the fight, because if you take too long, you'll have to do it all over again. Once he gets up, he will always jump to the center of the arena and throw a tantrum, slamming his mace into the ground over and over. This begins phase 2 of the fight. Keep your distance from him, and you'll notice orange rocks falling from the ceiling. You have to avoid those from now on, so keep your eyes out for anything glowing orange, and you should be able to dodge them rather well. If you're feeling risky, you can actually attack these rocks to send them in any direction, including at the False Knight, dealing damage to him. Now that his tantrum's over, the False Knight will attack the exact same as phase 1, with the only exception being that when he slams his mace while still on the ground, more rocks will fall from the ceiling. Other than the added threat of falling rocks, this phase goes about the exact same as the previous one. Just take your time dodging the extra rocks and attack whenever he jumps over you. Play it safe for long enough and you'll knock him down again. Once he gets back up, the False Knight will go back to the center of the arena and have another tantrum. This time, however, a lot more rocks will begin falling from the ceiling, making the arena even more dangerous to be in. Once you enter phase 3, all the False Knight's attacks are the same, with the added effect that every time his mace hits the floor, rocks will drop from the ceiling. So when he jumps towards you and hits the floor, around 2 rocks will always fall down from the ceiling. His other attack, where he hits the floor with his mace while still being on the floor, will now drop even more rocks down from above. Play the fight slow and steady, avoiding the rocks in his attacks, and maybe even launching a few back at him if you're feeling confident enough, and you'll knock him on the ground for the 3rd and final time. Hit his exposed head, it'll jump to the center of the arena for one final tantrum, and then jump at you for a mace attack. Stay near the edge of the arena, and you'll see him break the floor, dropping to his death. With that, you've beaten the first boss of Hollow Knight, so claim your reward and enjoy the rest of the game.